Okay, recording has started. So here we go. This is going to be what we do for the next hour. We'll have some live sourcing at the end. We're going to practice. We will be sourcing on LinkedIn today, which sounds counterintuitive, but I'll explain why later. Um, and yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun today. So let's start. This is Intro to Google X-ray Searching. We're going to talk about some general X-ray principles, things that are going to translate beyond just LinkedIn, how to utilize this as a specific tool. Next month, we're going to dive into a broader scope outside of LinkedIn, specifically the things that we're going to have to pick up as LinkedIn continues to tighten their security and what's publicly available. Um, so today we're going to talk about some generalized principles, showcase why LinkedIn has been a great tool for X-ray sourcing, why you should still use it for the time being, and how to prepare yourself afterwards. So our agenda today is going to go as follows. Here's our webinar agenda. We're going to start by developing a base strategy, considering essentially three different approaches to uh, Google X-ray. Keep in mind this does translate across search engines. So if you're a Bing person, you prefer to use Bing, you're more than welcome to utilize these same principles on Bing. Some of the formats might be slightly different. I prefer Google just because it's what I am comfortable with. I use all the time. Um, the Bing nuances are slightly different, but results will return differently between the two of them. So keep that in mind. These are principles that will translate. You might just have to tweak a couple nuances if you decide to run with a separate search engine. Um, we're looking at Google today. But our first topic of conversation is going to be developing a base strategy and determining where to start. This is going to lay the ground for introducing, the second point, introducing additional layers and how to utilize your keywords and your natural language or proximity searching effectively. Then we're going to dive into the meat that I'm certain brought a lot of people here. The LinkedIn problem, what's happening, what are the solutions, how are we going to navigate this, and then we're going to conclude with potential solutions to LinkedIn's specific issue that is now present for us. Um, and it's going to loop back into some of these base strategies and introducing additional layers. So it should all tie nicely together. Feel free to pop questions into the chat as they come up. I will answer them as quickly as I can. There will be time for Q&A at the end before we get into some live practicing to showcase approaching Google X-ray effectively. But this webinar is going to be structured a little different. Is we're not going to spend quite as much time looking at the specific syntax of Google X-ray. We'll break that down into live sourcing. So if you have a role that you need actively worked on or that you're actively working on, you would like some additional eyes, start pulling that up, figure it out. We'll dive into that later, and we'll showcase a couple of those different things. So let's get started with developing a base strategy. You've essentially got three targets here, or three different approaches. How am I going to find candidates for my open roles? You can either start by looking for people on a site, and that's going to be sites like LinkedIn, GitHub, Meetup, or social media sites. As a fair warning from me, social media is my least favorite. It's the least effective as of now, but it does have its specific use cases depending on what profession you're in. But that is kind of your target number one. I'm going to look at a specific site that is tailored towards a specific thing. LinkedIn traditionally has been widely available to us as a professional site. People host their resumes or their work history, regardless of their industry. So it's been really easy as opposed to GitHub that is software engineering based and is less resume oriented, but definitely still proof of concept. You can see their work being done for the most part, as long as it's open sourced or what is publicly available that they've created on their own, as opposed to sites like Meetup, where I'm looking for industry professionals that have a particular interest. This is one that I've started diving into over the last little bit. I'm starting to see some level of effectiveness in finding people. This is going to be a topic of conversation next month. So keep Meetup in the back of your mind. We're not going to be answering too many questions about that today, but it is going to be something that we explore further. And I did a webinar back in July, I believe, is when we did the social media expert X-ray uh, webinar that we talked about how to navigate social media sourcing. It's time consuming. It's not the most effective. Your details aren't super great, but it can create great leads and opportunities to network. So that's target number one, is my strategy going after a particular site where I can find people. The second, you're going to see file type searching. Um, File type searching is looking for resumes, conference lists. You're looking for really those are like the two major use cases in finding people to reach out to. Do they already have a PDF resume out in the ether somewhere, or a Word doc, Google Doc resume out in the ether somewhere? Do they have, or are you looking for CSV, TSV, right, which is just a different form of Excel to find people who are attending conferences, expressing interest in those particular routes. But that's strategy number two. This is one that I've also been diving into over the last probably couple months. Has been really interesting and is quite scary to see how much of our information, I say ours in collective humanity, is just out there that people can find. We get all up and tense about security leaks and information leaks, and oh, my email was sold because it got leaked here. But a lot of emails are out there publicly and readily available, and this is a way to find those. The last one that you could consider or should consider in identifying where you're going to look is looking at URLs. So this is an effective tool that is often combined with the cite command. However, it doesn't necessarily need to be. If you're looking in URL, you're saying, I don't care necessarily what the site is, but somewhere in the URL, the web address, I need to have these things. And I might include CV or resume. Alternatively, I might start looking at things to intentionally exclude. If I'm looking at LinkedIn historically, it's been really easy to say I want site linkedin.com/in to look at profiles. However, if I'm using social media such as Facebook, Instagram, and so forth, I don't have that same format to find profiles. So what I have to start doing is eliminating things in the URL bar and say, hey, I don't want to see posts. I don't want to see reels. I don't want to see jobs. I don't want to see pages. I want to see profiles. And that's kind of your third target, the third strategy that you're going to consider as you start to Google X-ray. So that's kind of three generalized strategies. Once you've determined which one is likely to be most effective for you, and we're going to focus on the site one today, and we might look at a couple of the other ones in specific instances. But once you've determined one, the next one is going to be adding your additional layers. So your additional layers is adding your keywords with purpose. The best way to do this, keeping in mind that X-ray searching is limited to 32 words. You need to start with your non-negotiables. When your hiring manager says they have to have skills X, Y, and Z, right? Push back and say, hey, well, what about A, B, and C that do the same thing as X, Y, and Z? Can we consider those? The answer is no. You have your non-negotiables. Start there. Include your keywords. Be intentional. Next, follow up with your translatable skills and tools. These feel like really simple principles, but they often can be overlooked. We get so stuck in our company jargons or what's familiar to us that we start to miss some of these other these other opportunities or ways to look at things. So once you've got those, it's also important to end with exclusions. If there's tools or skills that would indicate somebody is not in the right space, or maybe it's previous job titles. One that we run into frequently in the software world is if I'm needing a systems engineer that came from a systems administrator background versus a software engineer background, they're going to have very different approaches to the way that they work. And depending on what the team is, I might want to eliminate those that came from a systems administrator or a software engineer background to meet the needs of the team. So being intentional about your exclusions is going to help so that you're not playing buzzword bingo and you're just seeing what sticks. You're intentionally putting things around that are serving a purpose. And so then once you've got that down, introducing natural language. And here's our first example of Boolean for the search, right? We saw the couple commands on the previous slide, but using your natural language and proximity search is one of my favorite tools. And I talk about it probably every month, but I'm never going to get tired of this. Using the around statement in your Google X-ray searches allows you to be very precise with what works. So as you start looking at resumes, LinkedIn profiles while they're available, and looking at other information, being intentional about how close words are occurring with each other is going to be something that's highly important to increase your effectiveness at engaging passive talent, right? You can see the first bullet under use the around statement is build around Python. In this instance, I'm looking for engineers that have built apps or they've built scripts or whatever that might be using Python. It's not just a keyword that they've thrown onto their resume where it says, "Oh, skills used." Python, Java, Ruby, Golang, blah blah blah, and then platforms used, blah 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 blah. It's being intentional about the way that they utilize the skill or talk about the skill that they use. That's why we call it natural language searching. This translates to more than just tech roles, and this is feedback that I have received. Is make sure that I'm talking about roles outside of just tech. It's really easy for me to focus there. That's where I spend all of my time with my role at BECU is in the tech world. Right. So the second one is President's Club. If I wanted to find a successful sales executive, right, or an account executive, and I wanted to see that they hit the President's Club, right? They met their quota, went above their quota, their top contributor or top sales individual in their organization. Putting in the phrase President's Club that's a frequently observed recognition for sales, and tying it to some recent dates, right? 2020, 2021, 2022. I'm allowing for there to be job changes between that. Maybe they changed jobs halfway through the year and they weren't going to hit that. I don't know. I don't know how their organizations work. But allowing for some year variability there tied to President's Club, I can see that they've got a recent track record of being successful in the world of sales, right? Natural language, proximity searching. It's a phenomenal thing. And then the last one is one that I have talked about extensively in the last 6 months, is intentional stemming. It's one of my favorites. For those of you that have used platforms like Seekout and utilize the wildcard function there, this is how to do this in Google X-Ray. In X-Ray, or in a search engine, as you submit a word, it will auto-complete the word for you. So you might notice on that third bullet point at the very bottom of the page, manage is intentionally missing the E. This is the example I use all the time. It's really easy to explain. Manage, having an E, would auto-fill, because I don't have it in quotations, to managed or manages. However, or manager. However, it would not auto-complete to managing, because that's an I instead of an E. So by intentionally leaving off that last vowel, I'm allowing for variability in tense of how people talk about the things that they do. This is one of my favorite tools. I utilize it all the time to be inclusive about the way that people present themselves on their resumes. So once you've got your site or your file type or your URL focus for how you're going to start your search, you're pointed in the right direction, and you've got your additional layers. You've now got your keywords. You've got particular keywords in natural language. You're building out relevant experience based on the things that they present on their information. you've got the foundation for a start of a search. Other things that you would consider in your keywords, assuming you're looking outside of LinkedIn, is start putting in dates. To try and get relevant work experience. If I'm looking at resumes and that's my PDF search, putting dates such as 2022, 2023 is part of my keywords. Is going to ensure that I'm getting the most current or likely most current information available on them. Also be sure to include locations. With LinkedIn, there has been a really straightforward way of building out location strings. You put your location, you put it in a round statement with a number operator of 10, and then you type the word connections. And it's always going to return people that live in the general area that you have noted on LinkedIn. That doesn't work as cleanly once you have to start looking at other platforms. So you just start putting in your locations. If I'm looking at resumes, I'm searching PDF resumes, or I'm looking at at GitHub, for example, GitHub.io, which is one that I've talked about as a resume platform for software engineers. Listing locations, it might pick up locations of previous jobs. It might pick up locations where they've worked with different clients that are based out of various locations. So it gets kind of tricky in that instance. And, I'm still working on a couple different workarounds. I've got some ideas in my head of how to be more efficient with that. But utilize your locations now as keywords. Think of it strategically that way. So this is, your foundations for Google X-Ray. And again, we're going to showcase what this looks like utilizing LinkedIn, because it's a really easy tool to showcase that. And then we'll answer questions as we're going. Stephanie, no, there haven't been any questions. You're not missing something yet. There will be questions. I'm certain, but you're not missing anything at the moment. So that is Google X-Ray in a nutshell for right now, as we dive into further details. Yes, Paul, this is all being recorded. It'll be sent out tomorrow. Okay, let's talk about the LinkedIn problem. Many of you have probably heard LinkedIn referred to as the Blue Devil. I know several people in the industry that refer to LinkedIn as the Blue Devil. And honestly, it's earning its reputation right now. However, it's not entirely unsurprising. So LinkedIn was acquired by Microsoft a handful of years ago now, 7-8 years, I believe. And what is surprising that it's taking them as long as they have to do what they're doing. So LinkedIn, being a public platform, is not really going private, but kind of going private. And I'll explain what that means and why LinkedIn is creating new roadblocks for us. In a world where we have so many cybersecurity threats, data leaks, all of this fun stuff where people are becoming hyper protective of their data, LinkedIn has been a resource where there's been so much publicly available data that it really is surprising it's taking them this long to do what they're doing. So the way that they're changing it is if you've ever searched on LinkedIn, or a great way if you've ever used a tool outside of LinkedIn, right? Seek Out, HireEasy, any of your additional sourcing tools, and you run your list, you export it, you start clicking on links, you're looking at individuals, and all of a sudden you're getting dead links. You click on it, page doesn't exist, right? It's not there anymore. Or you start clicking on something and things just don't look right. There's missing information. It says, oh, you must be connected to them to see more information. It's a privacy setting. And so what LinkedIn is doing is it's creating an additional privacy setting that is hiding information from the public. However, if you're still a logged in LinkedIn user, you will be able to see the information. The problem is that you can't tell Google, which is not a logged in LinkedIn user, to look for the information that you're looking for, which is then driving LinkedIn to force you to utilize their platform to search for the information that you're looking for. It's a control piece to ensure data is being managed the way that they want it to be managed. That being said, is there bottom line profit margins involved? Probably. If you've ever tried to just search LinkedIn without a Recruiter Lite, Recruiter, Sales Navigator seat, it's not efficient. That's why so many individuals utilize LinkedIn X-Ray, because I can do what LinkedIn Recruiter does without having to pay for the platform. So, to understand why all this is a concern now, we're going to talk about search engine indexing. Essentially, what it is that the internet has billions and billions and billions of links, and it's impossible to keep everything real time. And so, what's constantly happening is search engines index, or they cache, or you pick your term of what that information is. So as long as that's the current version of your search engine's index, it's searchable, right? This got brought to light in particular by a couple individuals. This was Marcel Vandermeer and Irina, phenomenal individuals in the space. And if you're not following them, go follow them because they're at the forefront of all of this. What's happening is LinkedIn has now pushed their additional privacy setting to where they're not allowing the search engines to look at the profiles. The best way to explain this is you're conducting searches, run it in incognito mode, and you're going to see exactly what Google is seeing as they start looking at it. You're not logged in, and so as you click on the links, you're looking at it as the search engine does. So whatever version of your profile is currently indexed with Google, that is what is going to stay. So as long as profiles aren't being updated, the current index in Google or Bing or whatever your search engine is going to work. So this now poses up two problems. Either no one ever updates their LinkedIn profile ever again, and everything works fine. But then we all have out-of-date information. Or everyone updates their LinkedIn profile like they should when they change jobs, they have new certifications, things like that. And now your search engine's index is no longer current, and it has to index a new one when it tries to open the link, and you've got a problem. So that's where the LinkedIn problem is, and why you're seeing mixed results as people are trying to figure out what's happening and what's not. We're going to look at my LinkedIn profile to illustrate what a lot of this looks like. And how it's working. And keep in mind that just because it's not viewable externally, it is still viewable internally within the platform. The idea here, right, is that you're paying for data. That's what Microsoft is wanting with LinkedIn, and there's no way to beat around it. So then the question, right? I've got my third bullet there. Timeline. What do we expect from this point forward? Well, the expectation is that things are going to be updated. The search engine indexes are going to be outdated, and LinkedIn is not going to be searchable anymore. Is that going to happen? I don't know. Likely, is there going to be a workaround? As of now, there's a couple. We'll talk about that later as well. But LinkedIn itself is a searchable platform from search engines outside of LinkedIn. It's going to struggle for a little bit as we learn to navigate the new world in finding people. This is also impacting data aggregators. So your recruiting platforms, such as again Seekout and HireEasy, and you name it, are also going to be impacted by this because all they do is they have a script. You say, hey, this is what I want to find. They run a script and they say, hey, Google, hey, Bing, hey, search engines, this is what I'm trying to find. Here's how I've programmed it to find this stuff, bring it back. And it does. They're really powerful tools, but they also rely on data aggregation. That's the LinkedIn problem. Hopefully that was explained in a way that everybody understands. Before I go into the next part, does anyone have any questions about that in particular? Bob, you're correct. 2016, so 8 years. We're coming up on 8 years. My memory was pretty good there. Um, yes, Bing based. That's why you get different search results between Bing and Google. Great. No questions. Let's move on. So this is how LinkedIn processes data, and this is why I think it will still be possible to search LinkedIn, even if it's not the most efficient. I think it's going to be taking a hard step backwards for searchability, and we're going to see it kind of mixed in with the levels of effectiveness with general social media. Um, so I've got three things highlighted here, and this is why I utilize the in title search function when I'm building out X-ray searches. Is going to be explained here, and I've explained that before. This is a visual representation of that. Top left, you see site with a red arrow. This is if I'm putting in a site command, site colon, linkedin.com, you'll see that here. This is in your search results. That does not change. It will still be linkedin.com/in. That's how they have it coded to how everything generates. The next is your web page title. So this is where a lot of people, as they start to explore X-ray, get mixed up. When you see X-ray strings that say in title colon, you're not telling the search engine that you're utilizing. You're not telling Google to look for people's job titles. What you're saying is, I'm looking at the web page title. What has made this so useful for LinkedIn is that the web page title is that hyperlinked blue up at the top. So I'm going to bring my mouse over. Hopefully we can see it a little bit, but we've got over here on web page title, we can see Chris Aquaman Carver. That's me, guys. Surprise. That's my name. It's first part of the web page title. Second, senior talent sourcer. Second part of the web page title. Still in the title, but that's my current position. Last is BECU. That's my current company. That is how LinkedIn manages their data. As they publish your LinkedIn profile, that is the line that your web page title is. Name, current role, current company. This is what's indexed with Google. If I were to adjust this at all, if I were to drop Aquaman out of my name, if I were to change my title, if I were to change BECU, I'm now running into the same issues that Marcel and Irina are talking about. My indexed version is not accurate. So I've got this. Because my index version is current, I have publicly available text. What's ironic here is it's pulling from my volunteer experience at the very bottom of my page. It's not pulling anything from my summary. It's not pulling anything from my work history. Not pulling anything from my headline. You can see I've got my location and again, title and company. But all of that information was not the top information that posted in the index. I don't know why. I don't know how to explain that. I just think it's really interesting because my volunteer experience is old. That is from 2013 to 2015. It's not current by any means. I have so many more stuff since then. So this is how LinkedIn processes the data, and this is how the search engines interact with it. Is you're looking at the site, the web page title, publicly available text based on a current index. So this is what the search engines see currently, assuming that everything in the search engine index is up to date. If you were to log in, or if you were to jump to an incognito tab, this is what you will see. Again, we're looking at my profile here. It's zoomed out. The details on my profile are not as important as what I'm trying to show. So in this first box, you can see my banner picture. It says BECU, my lovely face, and all of my information up here. I can also see my work experience. I cut it off simply for viewability and readability, but all of my work experience is there. I can see my education, licenses, certification, volunteer experience. Notably, things that you cannot see is the skill section. This has been that way for a long time. So when you hear people knock on LinkedIn skills, this is why. It's not publicly searchable at all. It can't. And it's also a useless section anyway. I've utilized this in several instances of showcasing my top skill in my skill section is adding a random sentence to my LinkedIn skill section to prove a point. There's no regulation. There's nothing there. It's simply a box that exists that's not searchable. But this is what LinkedIn sees. The problem is once this index is updated, all of the about information will be limited on word count. That is still being determined on what specifically is viewable. Work experience is limited to job or company and title, and it's again mixed results, but it's looking like it might show you the most current and the one prior to that. But it's not showing any details outside of that. So everything that says sourcing primarily on the software tech roles, but also touching corporate administrative roles if necessary, yada, 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 not available on updated indexes, which is a problem because now my natural language searches aren't going to work that I need to. Also, the headline, my senior talent sourcer, webinar host, public speaker, dad joke extraordinaire, not there. If I were to update my index, would disappear. Likewise, education would be limited to my most recent school. License and certifications disappear. Volunteer experience disappears. You're going to get the same box that says join to view full profile. And this is the issue that we're running into with LinkedIn, is if anyone updates anything on their profile, they now have a more current version than what's indexed, and it's not searchable. So this is what the search engines are currently seeing. And to understand how search engines process this information is what we're looking at. The same principle applies if you're searching outside of LinkedIn, right? If I'm looking at Instagram, if I'm looking at Facebook, if I'm looking at Meetup, anything, start your searches in incognito and learn the familiarity of how search engines view these pages. Because I promise you, they're all different than how we see them as a logged in user. But orient yourself, figure it out. Ashley, that's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know if DuckDuckGo automatically searches in incognito. Well, I would assume not, because DuckDuckGo, as your search engine, you're logged in. It's going to operate just like Google. All of the search engines are searching as if they were incognito. For you to understand how the search engines are operating, I'm suggesting you move to an incognito window where you're not logged in to the platforms. Hopefully that makes sense. All search engines are searching for what's publicly available versus a logged in user, if that made sense. Great. Any other questions? Oh, Caitlin, my heart hurts for you. You don't need incognito to search. You can do incognito searches on your own device. It's simply for learning purposes. All of your search engines are viewing these pages as if you were in an incognito window. So even if they've disabled incognito modes, you're totally okay. Search engines are operating the exact same way. It's simply how you're interacting with it. I just recommend it for learning how search engines process the data. You're okay. That would be a pain in the butt though, because as I'm learning, I operate everything out of incognito windows. That being said, this is my wonderful work laptop. It has been closed for about 4 months now because I utilize my personal laptop for everything. I have Chrome extensions and mine's pretty locked down too. When I need to get onto it, I do, but everything else I can do from my personal laptop. Don't recommend that for everybody. Definitely have problems with some IT departments if you try and do that. What I do, I'm fine. Other people in my company would not be able to do that. So Play with personal devices, learn incognito windows, how they work, or how search engines look at web pages. It's not going to impact you if you can't access them on your work devices. So we've talked a lot about the LinkedIn problem, Google X-ray fundamentals. Here's your potential solutions, and I'm going to walk through how to do this as we start. Um, as we start our practice, we're going to do this top one. If you've never heard of a Rolodex, think index, build your own index. Rolodex, admittedly, was a new term for me a couple years back. It's like, oh, I've never heard that. I was talking to my dad about it, and he's like, oh yeah, I've got one. Pulled it out. He's in sales, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that that's what that was called. Which is showing that I still have a lot to learn in life. Feel free to make fun of me for it, but build your own Rolodex. This is a great solution. Been recommended by Arena. Build your own list. If you have positions that you regularly have to fill, or skills that you regularly have to find, start building your own Rolodex, digital Rolodex in an Excel spreadsheet. Utilize the data that's on LinkedIn before it's updated, is what I'm saying. It is going to be outdated within a year, most likely. Most of your list, if not all of your lists, is likely going to be outdated. So it's a lot of work up front and not necessarily a long-term solution, but it would be a short-term solution as the great minds of the recruiting industry figure out how to navigate the new LinkedIn changes, as well as look for alternative solutions that are going to be effective. So we're going to do that. I'm going to show how to do that as we start to practice, as we work on a role. I will scrape a page and share it. That's going to be what happens. Yes, Stephanie, that might be me exaggerating a little bit, but within a year, I fully anticipate that it would be like looking at year-old resumes. People make moves way too frequently now. The industry from 10, 15 years ago, where people would stay at a job, for 10, 15, 20 years, it just isn't the market anymore. So if you consider all of the information, assuming you caught them at a new job today and their index is current, they're likely going to change jobs within a year, or a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it might be. That doesn't mean that their links won't work, though. So if you've got their skill set, you've got their information, you can always return to their LinkedIn profiles. Being a logged in user, you'll be able to see everything. So short-term solution could have some good long-term implications. Option number one. Option number two, pivot to sites outside of LinkedIn. We have been so accustomed to utilizing LinkedIn to find people because of the wonderful resource that it has been. Right. When talking about Rolodexes and what that used to be is very different than what LinkedIn has been for us, right? LinkedIn has been such a wealth of information. We've all kind of grown to utilizing it as a crutch, even if we love to talk smack on the platform. You calling it the blue devil, poking fun. I poked fun advertising for my webinar and on LinkedIn about LinkedIn. So as much as we like to talk about it, it's time to broaden our horizons to look at other options. That's going to be next month. I've actually got some really cool stuff. I can't quite announce yet for next month of what that's going to look like. Just know X-raying outside of LinkedIn is going to be a huge part of that conversation. The third option is buy into LinkedIn's platform. Definitely not the one I recommend. It's definitely not cheap if you've ever had to look at contracts with LinkedIn and what LinkedIn Recruiter looks like. But it is a potential solution. It's what they're trying to drive people to do. You can consider it. Lastly, or I guess not quite lastly, outsource the sourcing to someone footing the LinkedIn bill. There are companies out there that do this. It's still not cheap, right? But it's less expensive than footing several LinkedIn recruiter seats within your company. There are sourcing companies as opposed to recruiting firms that will provide you lists of people. There's some great individuals out there that do that. And lastly, pause, because things will work out. I've mentioned this a couple times. Marcel and Irina are brilliant people. They are far smarter than I am. They are working with some other great minds in the industry, uh, and we're going to see solutions. We're going to be able to figure out what's happening. LinkedIn might not change anything ever in favor of us, which means we have to pivot entirely. Either way, we've got some wonderful industry individuals that I've had conversations with, that I know are having conversations with other people. We're going to be okay. LinkedIn changing the way that we can search their platform is not going to be the end of the world. It's simply a new adjustment. Um, I was not working at this time. I was in school, but hearing about the creation of LinkedIn in the first place, people talked about how that was going to be disruptive. It was going to get rid of the need for recruiters altogether, and all it did was become our tool of choice. So that's where we're at. Pause. Things will work out. That was a lot of information. I want to do some live practicing here, so we're if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll give you just a minute to do that. If you have a role you want to get worked on, I'm going to show you how you can start building your own Rolodex and with building a search using Google X-Ray, particularly using the cite command to go into LinkedIn. That's what we're going to be practicing. Everything outside of LinkedIn, we're going to be doing next month as some really exciting stuff. But the fundamentals for how to build an X-ray search of either targeting a site, file type, or a URL is going to be your initial strategy, and then layering your keywords. And then your short-term solutions of working around LinkedIn is where we're going to prioritize right now, because I want everyone to be successful and be able to do their job effectively for the next little bit. We've already had a hard time in the market of keeping recruiters employed and finding them jobs. Let's not make it harder. We want people to be successful. So all that being said, any questions? If you have a role, first come, first serve, drop it in, and we will go live. All right. Chris, great name, by the way. I'm a fan. Senior Business Developer Manager, Western United States, experience selling microgrids. Interesting. BESS. Can you explain to me what that is? BESS. Fuel cells, etc. Oh, okay. Or battery energy storage systems. Yeah, I picked that up as soon as I kept reading. That's my bad. I should do my job. Likely want someone somewhat junior, so 10 years less. Do they have a threshold that they have to meet, like 3 years? 1 year? Do they have that minimum threshold? Low base salary. Okay. Less than 15 years of experience would be ideal. Great. Business development. Okay, so this is how we're going to start. I'm going to go site:linkedin.com so we can start building your LinkedIn profile Rolodex here. At that point, I'm going to go in title again, explaining that the in title function is looking at web page titles, not job titles. That just translates nicely here with LinkedIn X-ray sourcing as of now. So we're going to go business. Business development. We'll go with account as well. We'll keep things broad, or BD. We're going to build in a little bit of redundancy here. So in title, whoops, here we go. We're going to go manager or rep or executive or BD. Actually, we're not going to throw BD in there. Okay, we're going to broaden our horizons, just depending on what people are referring themselves to on LinkedIn. We'll start with Western United States. How far west are we talking? Like Texas west, or are we talking like Pacific time zone? Minnesota down to Texas and over to the West Coast. Great. Some of my favorite places in the country are there. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to approach a nested around statement. So we're going to go Texas, um, Oklahoma. Let's see, Minnesota. This is going to take a little bit. Is it 1A or 1T? Minnesota. If I spelled that wrong, let me know. Minnesota. We'll go Dakota, because that'll get both north and south. Try to think here. Colorado. New Mexico. Utah. Idaho. Montana. Wyoming. Oregon. Washington. California. Am I missing any of the major states there? Kansas, probably. Nebraska. Okay. Nevada. How did I forget Nevada? Okay. Nevada is a wild place. I used to live about an hour and a half outside of Las Vegas. All right. So there's our nested string. We will go around, and we're going to go 10 connections. Okay. Then we've got our keywords. We're looking for microgrids, battery energy storage systems. Great. Microgrids or BESS or battery energy or fuel cells. We'll go with a fuel cell because that'll allow for both variations. Oh, thank you. I misspell things all the time, guys. It's like my second superpower of spelling like I'm in kindergarten. All right, and then we're wanting on the lower end. Chris, I'm gonna ask kind of a loaded question here. With these individuals, are you seeing them typically come with degrees? Do they typically have like university degrees? Okay, bachelor's or okay. So this is how we're going to approach that. We're going to go with bachelor. We're going to go B.S or B.A. I forgot my quotations. And for those of you that have not seen me live source before, this is in Brackets. I use brackets.io. It's a text editor. It simply makes it so that my Boolean is easier for me to read. We're going to go around 5, and we're going to tie it to some dates. We're looking 10 years or less. It's 2024. So we'll go with 2014, 2015, 2016, 18, 19, and we'll stop at 2021. And let's plug this in and see what it pulls up. Certifications would be a great one too, Stephanie, to consider. We're channeling one avenue at the moment. So I just put it in up at the Google bar. I could also put it down here. But my search bar, what do we get? All right, we reached our word count limit to 32 words. So I was afraid that was going to happen. So it stopped right here, which means it's not giving me my years of experience. This is just one way to do that. So there's Chris, there's two ways that I would approach this. And I'm going to do both. But what we're going to do is I'm going to copy this. Oh, I've already got it copied. Okay, we're going to paste it down here. So we've got option number 2, just so that I can see the division. And option number 1 up here, I'm going to get rid of everything after Idaho. And here, I'm going to get rid of everything before Idaho or before Montana. Says that this is an open parenthesis, but it doesn't look like it. Okay. Stephanie, another great idea using the rangefinder 2014 to 2021. I could do that. That would be one option as well. I actually do that quite frequently. 2019 got cut off, which is fine. Okay, so we've got director, probably not quite right. Passionate about uplifting communities, that's cool. Technical writer, director. These people are not looking right not in the right spot. Operations manager, case manager, business development consultant. There we go. See, customer X associate, owner. We're getting some wild results here and not a lot of good results. I think we're starting to see some of the implications of LinkedIn changing the way that they do things. We're going to limit this to this. We're going to limit our title string. We're simply just testing the waters. This isn't foolproof by any means. Oh, we found one, guys. We found one. This is great. I hope you're hiring this person. That was a joke. I hope you find more than one. But let's make sure that we are in the right space. In Tennessee. So you're not even in the right spot. All right, Chris, how are we looking though? Is he in the right space? Because if he is, we can try a couple different tweaks. Business analyst, he's pretty green in business development. Not really? Okay. Let's return to this. Stephanie, we are going to do our rangefinder here now. Not microgrids. So we're going to remove battery energy then. And we are going to copy this part because I think we've whittled down our words enough. Oh, great. Thank you. I'm a robot. Here we go. Business units manager. Let's see. Start opening a few of these top ones. We'll see what we're looking at. Okay, and I know we are at time, so if you want to hop, I will not be offended. That's fine. Thanks for coming. If you want to hang around and see us solve this problem, great. It will also be in the recording, so if you want to catch it later, that's okay as well. But let's get looking. Hey Ashley, I see you. Are you still here? Are you still online? Look, you're on screen. Congratulations. Okay. So I'm assuming this person's probably in the right space. However, he's looking like he's maybe maybe too expensive, having come from a VP of engineering, director of engineering role, electrical engineer, but now he's business development engineer. He's got about 5 years. Looks like he's in California. But at scale microgrids. Chris, how are we looking on this one? Okay. All right, let's take a look at Edward, EV charging infrastructure. So, Stephanie, I'm assuming you're still on the call. The reason I was going with the degrees tied to the dates is because what I'm running into is now this particular individual, right? Um, looks like he has been at this for a little longer than what we're looking for. Director of Sales and Marketing in 2005 to 2010, VP in 2011 to 2014. So that's why I approached it with the graduation or the university attendance in particular to solve for that years of experience in a more confined sense. This person has dates ranging from the rangefinder. So it's a useful tool. I utilize it all the time as well. But that's just to explain the logic of why I typed out the way that I did first. To save word count, though, absolutely. I'm going to go the way that I did. Energy as a service platform. Looks like battery storage, microgrid. We've got the right keywords in the current space. I can't tell where he is. He's in Minnesota. Yes. However, Stephanie, the thing to keep in mind is you've now created an inherent bias if you go the route of tying university attendance, that you're looking at only people that have the opportunity to attend a university. In sales, in particular, that can be challenging because I've had several friends personally that dropped out of school to pursue a career in sales, and so they don't even list their degree. So there's no right way or wrong way to do it. Just different approaches. But Chris, how are we looking on this guy? Is he, over at Hitachi? Looks like we're looking at microgrid, BESS systems. Okay. So I think we're in the right space. I think I had too many incorrect keywords to begin with, particularly in the title. So we've got this, right? We're going to assume that we've gone through, we've seen enough. We can keep scrolling. Google's infinite scroll is just going to keep generating stuff for us here. So the next thing that I'm going to do to create my own temporary LinkedIn Rolodex is I'm going to use Web Scraper. This one in particular is Google Search Results Scraper right here. I've got it pinned to my extension bar. I used to use Instant Data Scraper, which is right next to it. Looks like the Pokeball. However, it doesn't handle Google's infinite scroll very well. Yes, I will go back to the actual string for these results in just a moment. But all I'll do is I'll click my extension. I want to collect search results. So far, 99, 199. 255, great. And then I'm going to go to export to Excel automatically, right? Save search results to an Excel file. We're going to save that and we open it up. So this is now my foundation for a Rolodex. I would now at this point start flipping through. I'm going to have an overwhelming amount of information here, so don't be alarmed. Really, there's a lot of information that you don't need. So what we're going to do, because it doesn't pull emails, there's no emails publicly available in the way that this is scraping, and the snippet doesn't make sense. We're going to delete those. Oh, enable editing. I'm on my own device. Let me edit it, please. Okay, I delete the email because there's nothing there. And the link right here. So I can see all of their links. I'm going to go ahead and insert. Oh, wrong way. We'll insert a row here, right? Here's some potentially relevant information. It's a lot to sort through. So if you've got a handy tool to sort through all of this, great. If not, that's fine. Assuming your search is in the right space, you've done your work, create this as your notes section, right? Type notes. Start going through it. Link at a time. Skip verification. We're fine. See, now I'm back here at Mr. Parker's LinkedIn profile, and I can pull back up my thing. Let's say, looks good. Done. Right. This is what I would do. This is your temporary workaround with LinkedIn and the way that they're processing their data. I have already started doing this for .NET developers because that's what I hire over at BECU. I'm starting to work on it for Azure architects because that's what I do over at BECU. So when I say it's a temporary solution, it is. However, it is going to work, and if managed correctly, can be a good tool. But that's what I would do. Google Search Results Scraper. I'll send out a link to the Chrome extension in my email when I send out slides and the recording. It's really straightforward, but this is your biggest workaround. The things that I want to highlight, since we were talking particularly about X-ray searching, is a couple of the things that you're going to see here. This is what I've talked about in several of my webinars before, but just to highlight, right? Strategy number one was targeting a site, linkedin.com/in, to get LinkedIn profiles in particular. This is the one that is going to cause problems in the future, so utilize it while you can. Next is in title, utilizing this to look at web page titles, not job titles. LinkedIn's just kind and puts your current job title as your web page title. But there's piece number two that we're looking at. The next piece you're going to see, you see this vertical pipe being an OR statement. OR statements typed out as OR don't work in a nested around statement. I don't know why, they just don't. So you can see I've listed several locations to search, all separated by the vertical pipes. The around statement here to allow for proximity. I utilize 10 as my anchor number for around statements when I'm tying locations. Anything else, I utilize either 5 or 3, depending on what that looks like. We saw the rangefinder here, which was a really cool tool I wasn't planning on talking about today, but thank you, Stephanie, for that particular shout out. Other things that we saw, we saw once again the around statement, but tying degrees to years of attendance. The way that this is cataloged is this is either the year they started or the year that they graduated. So you do have to be mindful of the inclusion there, that if I put 2014, it's going to include somebody that graduated with their bachelor's degree in 2014 and somebody that started their bachelor's degree in 2014, which are going to have very different levels of work experience, having the 4 years. But this is something else that we saw. Yes, Stephanie, I'll show connections real quick. This is the whole narrative of LinkedIn Google X-Ray while it still works and how to build your own Rolodexes. Next month, we're going to be talking specifically about sourcing outside of LinkedIn. We're going to be looking at Meetup is one that we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at GitHub. I do a lot of X-raying into GitHub and have had some great conversations with architects in just this last week from people that I found on GitHub. Super useful tool there as well. So that's going to be next week or next month, not next week, not next week. Please, not next week. We'll do next month. But to explain in one final leg of explanation here, Stephanie, is the connections piece. So you can see around 10 connections. What I'm tying this to, we're going to hop back to my slides actually to showcase this because it'll do it really nicely for us. Here we go. So right here, oh, I can't click. This is a live slide. So the way that your search engines are looking at LinkedIn profiles is I've got my headline here that has my location, my city, state, country, and then it's got contact info, which even though it's 2 words, because it's a button, it only counts as 1. And then it's got a number here, word here, word number here, word here. So what I'm saying is I need it to occur within 10 words of my first one. So if I were looking for myself, I would look Swansea, and it'd be South being 1, Carolina being 2, United being 3, states being 4, contact info together being 5, 2K being 6, followers being 7, 500 plus being 8, connections being 9. So that's the reason I do 10, because this is, from city to connections. I have found with 99% reliability that it is always within 10. That is my explanation and my logic for that. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you everybody for attending today. I really appreciate it. This is a passion of mine, doing monthly webinars. So next month is going to be exciting. It's going to be a little bit different. Again, I can't give all my announcements yet because they are coming, but it's going to be some exciting stuff. So stay tuned, and we'll see you all next time.